Walking into a theater space like this, you could be walking into any one of 50, 60, 150 small porn theaters around, scattered around the major cities of this country, especially during the 70s and 80s. A theater like this running 24 hours a day or 20 hours a day with 2 or 3 hours closed in the morning for cleanup, it would house a whole population of people coming, looking for sex, looking for conversation, homeless people trying to get out of the, get out of the outside. I remember an old guy once who lived in a place like this. I saw him there every time I walked in for about 3 years, to the point I don't think he ever left the place. He had people coming in and bringing him food. It was a little sad and somewhat tragic, I suppose. But that was what went on in some of these theaters. In the seats around here, you might have 5 or 6 of the theater's queens sitting there, gossiping, the kind of steady mumble that goes on over the soundtrack of the pornographic film on the screen, talking about what goes on in the theater, what goes on outside in the street, the politics of Falls Church or Wichita or Chicago. And here on the left side of the theater, in this little alcove we have in the back, the 2 rows of chairs that you can probably hardly see because they're in shadow when the movie is actually playing, that's where most of the actual activity may be going on or could quite likely be going on. And because of that shadow and that darkness, nobody can see the 2 or 3 blowjobs that are occurring at any particular time. The fact that 2 men are sitting there, embracing, possibly even kissing. Here's where the action goes on. Here's where whatever makes the theater a real porn theater, where action occurs. As you went further and further down through the theater, there would be guys sitting out here, never sitting usually 2 at a time, but each with their row to himself, masturbating sometimes, and sometimes there would be a kind of flow of traffic from that darkened back alcove to the seats all around here, and people would make contacts and a pair would get up and then move towards that back alcove. If there are lights up on the wall, frequently somebody has climbed up on a chair and unscrewed the light so it'll be a little darker. And every once in a while there'll be somebody who wants that light on so that you can see what's going on in that chair. And frequently that's an invitation to move closer and possibly start some kind of relation, which people do, and there's a traffic constantly going back and forth between the place in the back where the activity is going on and people making actual contacts through the theater. And here in the front row, because there are no seats in front of it, guys can get a little bit more comfortable, lean back and stretch their legs out. I remember in the Variety photo plays for several years, there was a New York City garbage man who used to stop in on Saturday afternoons and would sit down and get himself serviced there. I had him several times. He was quite a friendly fellow. I suppose somebody who enjoys that sort of something like that is a bit of an exhibitionist, but by the same token, you see, if you're in the back of the theater, if someone is down here doing someone in the front, when you walk in, you can't see them because of the backs of the seats and the backs of the heads. So everything is kind of half hidden and half revealed, which is basically how public sex operates.
Were the porn theaters romantic? Not at all. But because of the people who'd used them, they were humane and functional, fulfilling needs that most of our society does not yet know how to acknowledge. The easy argument already in place to catch up these anecdotes is that social institutions such as the porn movies take up, then, a certain social excess, or even, perhaps, socially beneficial to some small part of it, a margin outside the margin. But that is the same argument that allows them to be dismissed and physically smashed and flattened. They are relevant only to that margin. No one else cares. Well, in a democracy, that is not an acceptable argument. People are not excess. It is the same argument that dismisses the needs of blacks, Jews, Hispanics, Asians, women, gays, the homeless, the poor, the worker, and all other margins that, taken together, people like you, people like me, are the country's overwhelming majority, those who, socioeconomically, are simply less powerful.